off of Second, that starts.
See, and I'm right here, and there's nothing going in there at
It's
all.
coming right straight down the highway and then off of Second Avenue.
And then
You can see Third Avenue.
where-
Committee of a whole, we pray that thy spirit may be with us. We pray for those that suffered through the hailstorm yesterday, that all will go with them, they'll be able to recover. We're thankful to be able to represent this town, and I hope we pray that we'll make wise decisions for the citizens. We say these things in Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
Thank you. So we'll call this meeting to order. We'd like to acknowledge all in the gallery today. It's nice to have some citizens with us.
Without the mass on.
We have the agenda in front of us, and are there any additions to the agenda? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Barnes, all in favor? Good, thank you. We have delegations today. We have Mr. Paul Hemstreet and Mr. Miles Yulee from the golf course, and we're glad to have them. So, gentlemen, do you want to come forward? Are you tag teaming, I gather, from our outline here?
Sub you in.
I'll start and then the lady.
Okay, so you'll start and then tag off.
So
Yeah.
council, you all have this sheet I just gave you, and then you have the stuff in your package to support that as well.
Go ahead.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good? Fantastic. So yeah, just here to give you an update on the golf course. What you see in front of you is kind of an overview of things that have been going on. So starting off, leagues. We've introduced a couple leagues this season. So juniors, we've got upwards of 40 to 50 that have become a part of our junior league that we created. Very successful. We've had some free lessons every Monday night, so they had to become a junior to be a part of it. So that helped to increase our membership numbers there. So that's ongoing. We'll continue that for the next, right through the summer. And starting off next week, we have some tournaments that we're running. Next week at McGrath, then 2 weeks after that at Raymond, and then lastly at Cardston here to finish off. So really positive with the juniors. Men's league as well, very positive. 55 members in our men's league that we created from basically nothing. So big increase there. And that's just every Wednesday night. We have kind of a team format, and it's been a really positive experience for the guys to kind of come together in a place to get together and have some fun. Looking forward to the leagues, we'd love to grow a senior league, a ladies league, and continue on with that in the years forward. The big thing missing, and jumping into the next one, with those leagues is a place to congregate, to come together in our clubhouse and sit down afterwards and hand out prizes and get to know everybody, right? So still kind of difficult to get to know people when they just kind of go play and leave after they're done. So looking forward to when that can happen, when we can all get together. Memberships are up considerably, up 57% from last year. So I printed off my old copy. Thank you.
I hope that's the newest one there. Does that look right?
Yeah, that's the right one.
Okay.
So yeah, it's broken down there for you. I won't start reading off all of these numbers and bore everybody behind me here. But all in all, very positive, good numbers. We're up in every category there from last year, which was a fantastic year. So everybody's still gung-ho on golf, and we're hoping that continues moving forward. Getting into revenue, again, last season was your best ever, I believe. And we are currently up, where did I have that? 57% on memberships, 22 on green fees, 150 in food and beverage, so just up in general. Really having a strong start to the season. We started earlier than they started last year, right? They didn't get started till the second week in May, and we've started the first week in April, or the second week in April. We had some closures, and we've had some challenges with the restrictions this year that, especially through the month of April, where we only allowed, households to play together. So that, we could have had a really even better start, to be honest with you, with numbers. We were really climbing there for a while, but all in all, can't complain. We're already at 84% of our budgeted revenue for the season, and we're not quite halfway through the season. So looking positive. And I did put in there, just to understand, a lot of that revenue comes from memberships early in the year. Mm-hmm. So although we're well past halfway in terms of revenue, it does slow down a bit, and we're just depending on green fees at this stage as opposed to memberships, but still fantastic position. Clubhouse, very excited here. We feel like this is the key to bringing the golf course kind of to the next level. I think you've all experienced our current clubhouse, I'm going to assume. I think I'll tell a quick story about one of our staff was serving a customer. They came into the clubhouse and walked through the door and looked around and asked, where's your clubhouse? So I think that kind of puts it to a T right there. So anyhow, we've got a plan in place. You've got it there. You've seen it. We've got everything in place other than the money, and we're working on that. As I get into that a little later on, our subcommittee for the clubhouse revenue is working on raising some more money to finish off what we need, and so we can get started ultimately. But that is certainly the next step where we can expand our leagues, our community tournaments, our club tournaments, our group bookings, our travel bookings, you know, you name it. As a family restaurant for the town, it can serve so many things and can add so much value to this town. It'll be a fantastic addition.
Paul, can I ask you a question, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
Regarding your fundraising committee,
Yeah.
Are you working together with the original group that wanted to fundraise, like Delbert, Beezer?
Yes, that's who I'm.
So you're working together, trying to push that forward?
Yeah. So we've been waiting to finalize kind of something to show people.
Okay.
Which
so
we
you
now
need
have that in what
fine,
your
yeah.
your plans there.
Mhm.
So now we can take that and, you know,
Market
make
it.
that public
Okay. all
ultimately,
fine.
right? And start to use that as the springboard to start.
Okay, thanks.
I'll leave hole 16 from Miles back there in irrigation. I'll just jump ahead a little bit and talk about kind of carts and cart paths. And at any time, if you have a question about something I'm chatting about here, just fire away. Don't be shy. Cart paths as a whole, our cart paths on the golf course are pretty good, I would say. They're extensively paved compared to other courses of similar stature. I would say we have a lot of pavement, which is fantastic. It's nice to have. Some of the issues come with the holes on the hills and some of the steep declines and inclines that we face. And, you know, I wish we'd had a few more switchbacks on some of those declines, but, and we'll have to look at that moving forward. But the biggest thing for me is safety on a lot of the paths. We're installing some railings on number 7 and 8 right now, but more is needed in that regard. We've had, I want to say, 3 rollovers this year alone, maybe 4. So, you know, most of that is operator error, but ultimately, you know, you want to make it safe for people. So we're working in that direction, but there will be more improvement needed on the cart paths. You know, and that's just some bumpy areas and stuff like that just come with age. So all in all, the paths are pretty good. The carts themselves are a different situation. Currently have 48. As we speak today, actually now it's 37 available to rent today. 2 more went down today. 9 carts, well actually 11 carts now unavailable due to just mechanical issues, age. You know, I had a tire go down, which we'll have fixed by tomorrow, but wiring in another cart, that as they get old, they just, you know, disintegrate. So at this point, I would need at least 10 to 15 cars next year in order to operate properly. 16 of the new club cars that we got a couple years ago, right now 4 of those are inoperable. Just turned out to be not a great car, to be honest with you. And so having a quarter of that new fleet down is very disappointing. 3 of them aren't even on site. They've been taken away to get fixed, hopefully under warranty, but you know, those kind of issues are unfortunate with some of the cars. So 32 Yamahas are 10 to 14 years old. They're just getting old. That's pretty old for a fleet car. You know, typically you would like to turn over your fleet every 5 to 7 years, ideally. So that's where we're at. You know, just in the past, I would say 3 weeks, I estimate I've lost $20,000 to $30,000 in revenue just because of power carts. So I'm at this point having to reserve off tee times so that I don't run out of power carts. So there have been days when people have been waiting upwards of half an hour to 40 minutes to get a cart, which to me is unacceptable when running a business. So at this point, we are just blocking off times so that we have just enough. And today was a great example. We were booked solid. I had to block off times. We were down to 1 cart, and then carts come back off of 18, and we start putting them back on the golf course. But, you know, I could have sold those times that I'm blocking off. So that's where that revenue loss that I feel is.
Councillor Brown and Councillor Barnes.
Yes, Councillor Brown.
Just a question.
Yeah.
So do you think that you're short because of COVID and people are staying in country, or do you think this is our new normal?
Well, that's a great question. I don't have that answer.
Because if we were to look at the numbers
Yeah.
for the last 4 years,
Yeah.
right? So we're in our second summer of COVID.
Yeah.
The first 2, I don't remember hearing a complaint about waiting for carts. I don't remember
Sure.
that being a big
Yeah, no,
deal.
looking at the numbers, you wouldn't have.
But now
Yeah.
our numbers have jumped,
Hopefully,
and we
this is
hope-
our new normal,
And we
or
hope
or
that they
somewhere
stay.
close to that. I think you have to look at it as an opportunity now to grow and to better the course and better the facilities to keep bringing people in. It's not going to be this busy if you're just looking locally. So you have to reach further than Cardston in order to stay this busy, for sure. Right? We're going to have to look to Lethbridge to get more people from Lethbridge, to get more people from Calgary, all of the province, really, in order to stay this busy. I would think after the COVID kind of pushes over.
What's the cost of each of these carts?
Yeah, I was gonna, anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000 per cart.
So, if I understand too correctly, Paul, what you're saying is that we have an aging fleet regardless of how things look going forward that needs to be replaced.
Yeah, they are. I mean, your Yamahas, which are actually, they're the ones that are kind of the workhorses for us. They're 10 to 14 years old, but they are breaking down regularly as well, right? Just different pieces of them break down. We have to fix them. They're fixable, right? But the age isn't also just the internal part, but it's also the bodies, the seats. All of that is wearing down quite a bit. So again, that can all be replaced as well for less money, more manual labor, more labor than, right? So you're spending money either way, right? Because somebody's got to do the work. So, I understand where you've been, right? And why I have the fleet I have. I don't, that's fine, right? But moving forward, and I anticipate a clubhouse. I anticipate things continuing to grow. I wouldn't be here otherwise. So that's where I'm looking forward. And to do that, in order to grow, you do have to have the infrastructure to do it.
All right, so when you're saying 50 to 60 are available, you say 5 to 7. So in between somewhere, you need about $350,000 to kind of replace your fleet.
Yep, big number. But you can lease that. You look at just, what did I have? 90,000. Sorry. So 90,000 just in cart revenue to date this
Right.
season.
So what I'm
So
trying
you
to,
lease, you lease that over 5 years, if you look at not buying outright, but leasing over a 5-year period, right? You only pay the lease during the golf season. You're making your money on power cards.
Okay, so
to support it.
that's what I am interested in
Mhm.
hearing. Because comes October, whichever council is going to be there.
Yep.
We'll need to pay attention to that. So I would suggest that administration and you guys
Yep.
need to kind of make sure you have a plan moving forward as to how to finance it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that'll be coming. I'm getting in the midst of getting quotes from multiple vendors, and we'll have leasing numbers. I'm assuming possible just buyout numbers. We can look at all that, right? And if it makes sense, it makes sense. If it doesn't, then I still would suggest we need some cars to get by so that we're not having to turn away golfers, because I do believe that will continue. And there's just the age of them. It's needed. So
So you're
Thank
saying
you.
we need 15 at a time, 15 right now, not the whole 50, 60 right now. which would be
well,
nice
I would
to replace the whole-
I would suggest
I
getting rid of
understand
the
that.
fleet.
If we-
That's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you, it's not a good
If we
fleet.
can't find the 350,000, we can do it at a time.
But if we have to, we'll deal, right? We'll function. We're functioning this year and we're making money. So, I'm just letting you know what I want. Right?
Yeah, I get you.
That's typically specialist expert.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a, that's.
You gotta ask for it if you want it, right?
That's right.
So,
You don't guess, Paul, that if you keep making lots of money, we can
That's what
probably
we do.
entertain this.
yes, absolutely, right? So, yeah, so that's power carts. From there, our driving range needs a bit of work as well. We've had some, I don't even call it vandalism, but theft of golf balls is common, and from what I understand, it's been common for years. We're down probably 3,000 golf balls already this year. Where they're going, I don't know.
Have to go back to Walmart to buy it
I'm not sure.
back. And then buy it back.
So and it wouldn't be much of an expense. I haven't looked at how much, but just finishing off the fence so that it's at least fully fenced all the way around, so that they can't just walk onto the driving range at night.
The gate to go in, that
Yes.
type of thing.
Yeah. And then from there, we've spoken about a possible net down the highway, again, just as a protection, so that we're doing our part to try and protect the traffic there, the pedestrians that walk down there, the homes on the other side. So, we can price that out. That's, again, the town can probably do a lot of that in terms of the poles, and it would just be the purchase and the cost of the netting and installation of the netting. So not a huge expense, but I think would add to the driving range itself, just to help us keep the balls we have, as well as keep them on the range and keep them away from cars and houses and people. So our advisory board, as you'd asked before, we met in the spring. We'll be meeting again soon. And we're just discussing generally all of these items that I'm talking to you about today. The subcommittee that we formed to raise money for the clubhouse, that's carrying forward. Now that we have the clubhouse plans, we can really kind of take off with the fundraising, I'm hoping. And then with talks with Jeff and just some suggestions with regards to what I've seen at the golf course in terms of the clientele that we have, to better represent that, I do suggest that we change, are we changing the bylaw or what are we doing? Yeah, to include an Indigenous member and a female member to be always on committee. So that would be my suggestion. I'll let Jeff deal with the internals of that. But yeah, I think it's just important to have all points of view on the table. Our Indigenous community is a very large supporter of the golf course. This year especially, I think we've had considerable numbers out and they support us in all ways. food and beverage, pro shop, carts, green fees, memberships, everything. So as well as also just having a female voice on there as well in terms of leagues and tournaments and everything that is involved in the golf course. So that would be my hope, that we can make those changes. And then we can just carry on with our current board members, and as their terms expire, we can replace those. Next people can be my suggestions there. And then moving on to some of the other items. You know, Miles and I have chatted a lot, and from what I've seen, although we're doing well, again, and I know it sounds like I just want to spend money, but really I want to make money too, and I do believe you got to spend some to make some. I do think we need at least a couple more staff members for our grounds crew. They basically just cut the grass, and there's just enough of them every day to mow everything and get all that done, and then the day's kind of over. And so there's no room to go back out and do projects, to beautify the golf course, to, you know, fix all the little things that need to be done out there. And so having, you know, this year, especially all their time, and Miles will elaborate on the irrigation part of it, that has been a difficulty. But a lot of the time, any time they've had has been towards that, and actually I think has been at the expense of some mowing, and still not being able to go back and fix all those breaks and all that turf that you've had to dig up to fix a break. They don't have the time to go back and fix it, right? So it just sits there until a rainy day or a day where it's slower, where they can do that. So we can look at that, obviously at budget time, but that is a suggestion, another want I have. You know, as we get into a new clubhouse, I know this has been discussed many times, but the liquor license is something we will have to look at again. That will help to bring in people from outside of town, from Lethbridge, from Calgary, groups, tournaments from outside of the city. We've got a list there of projects and equipment. I won't go over that, but you can take a look at that as to just things, again, that we're thinking about. And then lastly for me, and then I'll turn it over to Miles, unless you got some questions for me. And Miles will talk about the 16th hole and the work we have on that, and then the irrigation issues that we've had over the season. But I've enjoyed my first, what's it been, 5 months, I guess, 5 months now. Living in the RV park for the first 4 was fun, but I'm happy to be in a home now. So family's here, and we've just gotten settled within the last 3 days. So we're into a house and enjoying the town and starting to experience Cardston. So
welcome to the community.
I appreciate all the help. We've had lots of neighbors helping us out, and it's been a very welcoming community. So I appreciate that. And I look forward to kind of getting the new clubhouse and driving the golf course and tourism here forward. All right.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions? If not, thanks, Paul.
Well, I will make a comment.
Sure.
If you allow me. Thank you for that thorough report. We never had such a report
Oh, too much?
on the golf.
No?
No,
Perfect.
it
All right.
was just good.
I can ramble
It's
if you-
all right.
if you let me.
Oh,
You
we
did
can
well.
too.
Thank you.
All yours, Miles.
Thanks. Thanks, Paul. Miles, do you want to fill in the rest?
I'm just gonna elaborate on the project, the 16th hole. We've got 2 options to pursue there. The problem is we're having a hard time finding a contractor to do the shaping. You can't just get anybody to come in there and just move the dirt. It has to be somebody to shape it. I approached Les Ferber about it. They're tied up in Fort McMurray, and the other 2 contractors are tied up in Waterton. So that's going to be an issue of us just trying to find somebody to do it. When we find somebody who can do it, then we can proceed with which plan we want to take. A whole kind of deal. The next thing I want to talk about is the irrigation. Simple thing is it's failing. Our system's failing us. It's getting old. It wasn't designed to handle dirty water, which we're getting from the Levitt irrigation. And it's plugging up our irrigation heads, and we're getting 1, 2, or 3 stuck on at night. And we're getting pilot valves failing, and it keeps the sprinklers on. They stay on or they don't come on. And the control panels, our satellites, which is the brains of the whole thing, is phasing out. You can't key in anything on some of them. It's really hard to see what you're keying in. So you could, instead of 15 minutes, you could be putting in 150 minutes. So you're kind of guessing on a few of them. I've ordered 2 of them from Hunter. They're still not here. And they're about $1,200 a piece. But we have to replace them, or we're just going to have 2 down. You have to go out there manually and do them all, which is labor intensive kind of deal. With that situation, it's costing me at least 2 employees a day going around flushing heads, fixing these things. Golfers aren't very happy when all of a sudden a sprinkler pops on out of nowhere because the satellites send a signal out what's supposed to be there, because it's the internals are starting to wear out too. So we've given 2 proposals on how much it would cost to get a central control system that would be in the office, which we'd have to replace all the satellites. But it'd be easier for us to monitor with the water usage and shrink our window, so we wouldn't have to water so much when the golfers were there. And it's a very efficient way. It tells me, I just go in there, look on the monitor, and it tells me, okay, that head failed, this failed, this failed. And I can send people right to it instead of us having to make the big trip around the golf course in the mornings. Oh, there's a sprinkler stuck on. We got a flood there, that broke there, kind of deal. And this system should be tied into, I'd say, if we get a new control valve closer to the clubhouse, that if it sees a pressure drop, it'll shut it down, and we won't have these big floods when we come in more type thing. The major issue is the dirty water, though. That's our problem. The spring, there was a hard winter on the golf course. We lost a bunch of fairway area. It's coming back really good right now, but it's been kind of a strange spring. It was hot, cold. Everything was thrown at us. We've got it coming now, but one of the problems is the irrigation broke down 3 times. So it got warm, we fell behind. Then we have to catch up. We just get catching a breakdown. They seem to have that issue solved now. It's working really good right now. But again, that's not solving our heads plugging up and other things.
Miles, can I just ask on that, just so we're all clear too, because you and I have talked about this a lot more than council, but just so I'm on the same page, one of the issues is we pump out of the raw water reservoirs before Levitt irrigation comes in, and that water, to my understanding, is pretty good.
Yeah.
When we're pumping out of the raw water, because it's probably from the St. Mary's and it's been sitting and it's okay.
Sediment settled.
It's when we transition that you're having the most issue, right? And I think we talked about, is there something we could do in the underground infrastructure that could run a bit of water through before we enter it into the golf course? Or we'd had some discussion about that at one time.
We found that the only way we could do that is flushing it through our line.
Yeah.
Which is the problem. And like most golf courses, it's either coming out of a big river that's running quickly, or they have big holding ponds where they put the water in, they let the sediment go down, and then they pump it out. Ours is just come right out of the irrigation. So I filled the sprayer up with that water and showed Paul there. You couldn't see the bottom of the sprayer.
Is there a limited amount we can get out of St. Mary's? Is that the issue?
So the license is limited, yes, but I think more than that, more than the license limitation, and Paul, please, if you feel otherwise on this, I think what we had this spring was we were pumping out of the west reservoir, is where we pump your water from, and that was quite low, and we hit that spring runoff when we don't want to pump out of St. Mary's. Right, so we have a couple, almost sometimes a couple of months a year where we don't want to be pumping out of the Lee or the St. Mary's. The turbidity is too high. And so we run those down, and then my water guys start getting nervous when he's calling for a whole bunch of water and they're looking at the levels of the reservoirs. And so we had a little bit of issue there this year on the priority of that water out of the raw water reservoir. And so we've got to correlate that a little bit better going into spring.
Yeah, they had some issues in their shed out there too.
Yeah.
pipe break apart and stuff like that. And I think their control valve wasn't working properly, and I think they replaced, and I think that's why it's working so well now. We're not getting fluctuations in pressure blowing up our irrigation. So I'm really happy there. It's just our major issue is that dirty water. And it's along with the silt coming in, it's bringing algae too. And we've got a big algae seam on 14 green that we have to keep aerating and replacing the soil to get rid of it. It's quite costly to spray it. Little bottle of Quicksilver like that, $650.
Well,
Control that. So we really backed the water off in a couple of greens, and we're watching it really close, so we don't have to spray this stuff very often. So.
Councillor Barnes, you have a question?
is there a possibility of finding a location on the golf course property to have a secondary pond, holding pond?
Well, if you did that, we'd have to get a pump house and everything. That'd be happy for me because
Oh.
I'd like to control my own water.
Yeah,
Councillor Barnes, you may remember even 6 or 8 years ago, we had pumps right in the creek along the golf course.
yes,
The problem we had with those, and it was as logistically complicated, is they would silt in over all the winter.
Yeah.
And then we'd have to wait for environmental and DFO approval to clean them out.
yeah,
And you'd wait weeks and weeks at times before you could go in there and clean them out.
Yeah.
And so when we put in the community irrigation line, one of the conditions of that line was we removed those direct intakes because we had it at Lions Park, we had it at Rotary Park,
right,
we had them on the golf course. And so one of the deals was we would get rid of those if we put a central irrigation line in. The problem is he takes it first and it's not great water.
Mhm.
We don't use it in the park system for even probably 2 months after he starts using it at the golf course, to be honest. And so we've got to work through that a little bit.
I mean, I think we can solve part of the problem here if we start replacing our hunter heads with the Toro and the Rainbird because they're constructed a lot stronger.
Mm.
And that's kind of the silk gets in and wears out the impellers on these hunters. They're not made for this type of water. They're made for like city water type of thing.
Mhm.
And not anybody's fault, but they just, they were drawing a lot of clean water when they first built the golf course. So they didn't know that this transition was going to happen.
So, touch on whole 16 as well.
We're waiting to find a contractor.
So they, by the way, Miles, they have the quote that Ferber gave us.
Okay.
So we need to, between us, we need to set aside if we're going to get that going in the fall. And once, if there's someone that can do it this year, then I'll come to you and see what we can do about funding it. We are including in an upcoming grant application, probably. I'm not terribly optimistic about it, but they don't like golf courses a ton in those grants. But we're going to see if we can get it into something. But we keep trying anyway. But we will have to talk funding if there's a contractor that can work on it within this calendar year.
Because that's moving quite a bit of dirt to do a 5-to-1 slope. It's a lot of dirt.
Yeah, that's what I say. We want somebody who knows how to shape because they can just get there. Like I know Ferber's guy, I've worked with him before, way long time, Milano Lakes, and he'd probably do that in half a day. He got in there. That's how good he is on those cats.
So I guess that was kind of leading to my question. And that's when would you be able to start on this? I mean, I know you're looking, but did Les Ferber or the other guys?
Well,
give
I
any
talked to
indication?
Les, and they're tied up this year in
Completely?
Fort McMurray.
Completely.
That's what he told me. But I mean, I could keep hounding him, see if we can get out of him.
If it's a half a day,
He's a nice guy. He might
half a day.
might get it to us.
The other thing too, Miles, and you and I haven't talked about this, if I might, Mr. Chairman, is we could, if we get the funding sorted here, we could put it on the purchasing connection and at least see who we might get,
Yes.
right? So Miles has reached out to guys he trusts, but we can put it out there and see what availability is, and then we could try and vet some people we just might not know.
Yeah, there's other golf course designers out there too that I haven't contacted either. I mean, it's a tough hole. It's like even to keep water up there, it's hard because it's so sloped and
Mhm.
whatnot.
Paths is destroyed.
And I'd like to say another option is replacing the heads. There's a cost to that. one of those heads are anywhere from $450 a piece, and there's probably, I don't know, 1,500 heads out there. But you think about, we're fixing 2 or 3 of them a day at $150 a piece, and they don't last that long. So we're gonna trust, Paul to make a lot of money. Well, that's why he made me go second, because he was the positive part. We're just kind of bringing you our irrigation is failing.
Okay, so we have yin and yang here.
Yeah.
Anything else? Paul?
Any questions?
Any other questions? Okay, Councillor.
I would just say thank you. You guys are doing such a great job. We hear raves all the time. I was
good.
in Raymond just the other day and somebody found out I was from Cardston and they were just, oh, you guys have the best greens and yada yada. They were speaking a language that I wanted to understand. I don't know golf language, but it was positive. That's what I took away from it. So
Yeah,
thank you.
I had some guy from the country club here the other day. He was surrounded and raving about it too.
Yeah.
So
It's a good job.
thank you. So, thank you very much. And
Thank you.
thanks for
Good
your
work.
support.
Thank you.
All right. Well, good, thank you. Councillor. I'd like to welcome Councillor Bengry. Okay. We'll go to our next delegation. We have Bill Creed here from the Cardston District Historical Society. Bill, come on up.
You don't look like Bill.
What's that?
You don't look like Bill.
Bill is here. And I'm just going to introduce, I'm his chauffeur. So I'm just introducing him. I wanted to
See ya.
just say a couple of words of introduction. And councillors, it's been, we've had some great support from you and we're thankful for that. Tim is always, Councillor Court is definitely always at our meetings and we appreciate his input. It's very valuable as we move forward. During the COVID challenges that we've had, we haven't been quiet in what we've been doing. There has been several renovations and things that we've done, but I just want to let you know that we're moving forward. We have now a lift so that people who have mobility impairments can get up into the upstairs and downstairs on a chairlift. So that was just installed last week. And we have also, since the last time I was here, a new website, which we now have locally resident and we can edit that and we can update it. So that's working quite well. The organ that was in the card home has been restored. And as through research, it was found that that organ also had the option of an electric motor rather than just to pedal it. And the people that restored it graciously donated that electric motor, and we are going to have some concerts with that beautiful organ. When you hear it, it's a beautiful reed organ that I encourage you to come by and see. If you play the organ, come and play it. So we also, last Heritage Days had treasure hunt with QR codes for people to go around, and that went over very well. We plan to do that again, and we plan to make this a permanent thing for the community. We have identified 40 historic sites in Cardston and District in which we will install a small sign with a QR code stating what the site is. The QR code will take you to our website to a specific spot wherever you're at. If you're at the Old Indian Hospital, for example, there it'll take it up and it'll give you the history of that place. And we are going to offer to the business community an opportunity to sponsor each one of those signs. That will be an opportunity for us to pay for the signs and a little bit of fundraising. So those signs will be a permanent fixture. They're all-weather signs that are developed by a sign company. And we're looking forward to that, and we will still do this, the scavenger hunt for the times that are, for Heritage Days that are coming up. And so I'm going to turn, unless you have questions, I'll turn some time over.
Just on, I hadn't been given the date on when you were willing to do the scavenger hunt. Are you gonna do it that whole Heritage Week?
That's what we did last week, and the
Okay.
whole week gives time for families to go out and get it done.
Okay, so I will I'll book you in for the whole week.
Okay,
Thank you.
yes.
Any other questions?
And we have an offer for council. Bill?
Well, it's so good to be here. It's good to see everybody. It's
Long
great.
time no see.
Yeah, been hiding. Anyway, I'm going to give you a little bit of a brief history, and I think the council will remember this, especially Councillor Brown. You were the councillor representative on the Communities in Bloom 3 years ago, and I was a member of Communities in Bloom, and Mayor was on Communities in Bloom. I'm not sure if the exact time, but there was a proposal that came to our committee to create a E.J. Wood Memorial Park to recognize the contributions of Edward James Wood in our community. And so the Communities in Bloom pursued this, and they asked for a design, and Shem, bless his heart, actually still has the model. Found the model of the design that we came up with, and this was going to be and council gave approval for this to be over on the corner of the former E.J. Wood School lot, just across the street from the seminary building. And anyway, long story short, I left and went on a mission, but we put a sign there. We put a sign on that location saying this is the future home, and our emphasis at that time was to contact the descendants of the E.J. Wood, his descendants, to see if, for donations to raise funds for this. I did a estimate. I called people about the granite bench and a little ironwork and planters and a concrete pad, and we had an estimate. And came in under $10,000 at the time. Anyway, and we put up a sign saying this is the future home. And the town received some donations from E.J. Wood descendants. One was quite substantial, and so we have just over $1,200 that was donated for this project. And now, when I came back from my mission, got on the Historical Society again, I noticed the sign was still there, but nothing had been done. And it was kind of embarrassing to me personally to see that, and I thought, well, whoever donated, must wonder about, what's going to happen there. But as Blaine mentioned, the Historical Society has identified a number of sites that they want to identify as historical sites that we can give information on. And the E.J. Wood School lot was one of them. So I gave the proposal to the Historical Society that we take upon this project, and so that this is the reason we're presenting to council, because the emphasis has shifted a little bit with this change. What we want to do now is not only recognize the contributions of Edward James Wood to the community, but many people attended school at the E.J. Wood School, including myself. And so we would like to use this E.J. Wood Park idea now to remember that lot. And so we have modified the project. So basically all I want now is the concrete pad and the granite bench. And then the sign that Blaine mentioned, that will have the QR code mentioning the E.J. Wood School, which operated from 1957 to 2002. And so we can do this, with the donation that's been made already. The cost of the granite bench has gone up almost $1,000 since then. So when I first got the quote from Southern Monument, it was about $3,000. Now it's get close to $4,000. But I'm willing myself to do the work, as far as putting in the concrete pad, and I've got a kind of a agreement in principle from Southwest Concrete to donate the concrete to it if I can, work according to their schedule. So what we would like, and then the sign that Blaine mentioned will either be attached by a metal post to the concrete bolted, or it will be on a 6x6 post, kind of a podium type sign. You've seen those signs down there along the jogging trail, similar to that will give information about the E.J. Wood School and maybe a little about E.J. Wood, and it'll take to a QR code. So what we just want to do is have council reapprove this with the modifications in the project as I've explained it. And so that's what we'd like to do. If in the future people want to enhance that and donate more money and create a little bit more, memorial for E.J. Wood, that would be fine. But right now, my idea is just go ahead, get the pad in there, get the bench on there with the sign, designate that as a historical society, historical site in our community. So that's, and the historical society's agreed to take that on. So, and we'll be looking for some donations. So.
Barnes and Councillor Court.
So that, for the council to have the Historical Society take over the project?
Basically, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So before it was
Catching that
Communities in Bloom and the town had collected money, we can still have, if the town would like to still maintain the financial arrangements and just, receive donations and then, forward that when we get there, when we incur the expenses, that would be fine. We'll work with the town, but the Historical Society, would like to take on that project and use that as part of our historical sites designations in the community. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the price of the bench had gone up almost $1,000. Remco has done a number of projects for us the last couple of years, or the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
The veterans.
Right. Yeah, they made
the monument over there. Would it be worth talking to their representatives, see if they can get a better price on that?
Certainly. Yeah, I'd be willing to do that. The reason I contacted Southern, they were the ones that did the bench on the south side of the temple. Mm-hmm. And so I just said, a bench basically identical to that bench, except for would be gray granite. The one there is a Bethel white granite, but this is a little cheaper. But yeah, I wouldn't mind shopping around and getting a.
Peterson could probably give you a price on this.
I wouldn't mind getting another quote. That's always smart to do. Oh yeah. So, but that's our idea. Just get the concrete pad and the bench, and then mark that. So yeah. Any other questions? I will not answer that right now. Sorry about that.
Mayor?
So help me understand, make sure that I understood properly. Right now, you're saying your project will cost about $4,000, not including the cement or the wood to do the base of the structure, correct?
Right, yeah, that was the quote I have for that.
What are you looking for altogether as money to do that monument?
Well, basically just the cost of the bench. As I said, I'm willing to do the site work and preparation work. Maybe I can get Home Hardware to donate some rebar and some, talk to your mother.
Okay, so,
but,
so right now you're saying about $4,000, that's the high marks that you have right now.
That's kind of what I'm looking at. So it's not a huge amount.
You have $1,200 in donation, so you need
Right.
about $2,800.
Yeah, and so now we'll instead of, like say, focusing on the E.J. Wood descendants, we'll focus on anybody in the community and people who attended the E.J. Wood School and say, here, you might want to remember this site where you went to school. Put a sign on the actually, I'd like to see like on our little sign, a picture, in the background of the E.J. Wood School there with the information on it and then the writing over the top of that. So
Because-
just remember that site.
Yeah, I really think if people understood, we're only trying to, at this point, to raise around $3,000, it gives a better appreciation for possible donation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, if you have 50 people who give $50,
Yeah.
you're almost there.
I mean, it's not a big burdensome project to raise $3,000. I think I could do that.
Yeah,
No.
I mean, yeah, except we haven't done it in 3 years, right?
Well, anyway, I'm ready to go to work on it again, and
Thank you so much.
get there,
Knowing
so.
the way you work, you will get it done. Thank you.
so anyway, that's
Other questions or comments?
Just a quick one, when they want to approach the school division, they might be able to donate something since it was.
right. I've thought of
There's-
that too. Yeah, we could actually talk to the school division, maybe any class reunion groups that have their class
Yeah, and
reunions.
Before the Heritage Week would be maybe a perfect time because there's so many floats with reunion. You know,
Right, yeah. So we'll try, we'll work on that, and so as long as we have the blessing from council, we'll get right to work on it, so hopefully that's.
We'll discuss this later on in the agenda.
Yeah.
Under other business. And as most of you know, in the essence of time, I'm pretty sure that most in the gallery would prefer that we just get to the dog park discussion.
I think, yeah, that's what, so it's good to see a good gallery here. Maybe they would like to donate too. We'll,
Okay, we'll just warn everyone in the gallery that if Bill's shaking hands and working the crowd, he's looking for money, just so you know.
well, maybe we can work together. I've got some ideas for temporary fencing for a park. If they, we've done some fencing around our property to kind of keep the deer out, and we've come up with a nice little idea that for temporary movable panels really works well. Maybe that would be something they could use.
Good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bill? Any-
Okay, so we're gonna move right to 7C and talk about the dog park. Let's get right to it. So Jeff, do you wanna kind of lead out on the discussion on this, or?
Well, I don't have a ton of intro except 2 weeks ago, Mrs. Henniger was at council. There was some discussion over suitability of location. You wanted to go away, have a sober second look at that and other sites, and then come back and talk about the benefits of each. So I leave it back with you for that discussion.
We'll let Councillor Brown speak to this.
Okay, so since then, I've pestered quite a few of you, stalked you a little, taken you on walkabouts to see different ideas, and I've hoped that some other locations that certain councillors talked about. Obviously, I'm in support of down by Lee's Creek. I feel like, again, that I understand some of you really feel like that is prime real estate, and I respect that, but we don't have a lot of people, one might say, barking at our door for that, other than who we have right now. So I feel like it's a really good mesh. I also understand words in our last meeting that were thrown around, like temporary. This is only a temporary area. But to be frank, everything in Cardston is temporary. The next council, when all of us aren't here, or if you are here, the next council could remove a lot of stuff in Cardston. So by saying the word temporary all the time, it's valid. But again, there's no reason we can't, as council, support the idea of actually putting the dog park where we initially talked to the dog park people. I don't know if that's offensive. Sorry if it is. I just feel like we need to allow them to move forward. They've done their due diligence. I feel like, of course, we have, whether you agree or disagree, you've done your due diligence, but if I can sway you at all, I would just say, this is non-residential. It is away from the horses. It is family areas. People are already down there walking their dogs. Why not give them an area? And to have it in the middle of town, I think is a fantastic area. Some of you brought up the idea of putting it out at the Agrodome. I fought that one very hard, solely because it's so far away. I don't feel like people are going to walk their dogs, especially on that road. It's not going to happen. And even if they drive them all the way out there, I feel like it defeats the purpose of being able to take your dogs to a dog park that's in walking distance from your houses. Unless you're Councillor Court, then it's a lot closer to you. But there's not a lot of him over there. So anyway, my perspective, and I am pushing hard, is that we give them the area that we talked about. We drew it out. Maybe Councillor Drew, I don't think you were here, but we've shrunken it down. And we talked about the fencing and not having the feces close to the pool. And, we're dodging all of those bullets, but I really feel that that is the location. And Debbie Henniger and her people have talked about that area, and we walked it, and they're in agreement that that is a phase 1 location for them. So that's what I would have to say.
So I wasn't at this meeting, and I was actually, when I got a text from the mayor, I was kind of surprised because I thought that we had made this decision, and I'm right with you there.
Thank you.
That's where it needs to go.
How's the rest of the council? What are your thoughts?
We are discussing the part that we walked around that.
Correct.
Do you want that picture pulled up by chance? Is that helpful to the conversation?
Yeah.
Good.
What I want to ask, when we talked about that temporary, you're quite correct. Temporary can be anything. But there were different elements there, it seemed to me. The location was favored there because of safety and security. That was something. It doesn't mean that the other location would not have safety and security at the same level, but possibly not. What I was trying to understand myself in reviewing all that, I walked that park. It's really to try to see when you say temporary, because the grant has not been fully vetted yet, in the sense that we don't have the result. When is it?
September.
So my question would be, so imagine that grant doesn't come through, then what?
Can I answer that?
Sure.
So to answer that, I would say this group is hungry for a dog park. They've worked their butts off. No offense again.
Actually,
But they've worked really hard, and so far they've gotten over $11,000 together. And really, they only started January-ish. So that's some busy, hungry people. So I feel that even if they don't get that grant, they will figure out a way to make this happen within our community.
How much money was that grant applied for? Do we know?
Yeah, Jill, correct me if I'm wrong here. I think this is right. We applied for basically everything else that might be needed and ideal, and I believe it was 31.5. Is that close, Jill?
Yeah.
31.5 was going to cover, I think, everything that everybody wanted in that grant.
But was that not for the bigger location and the bigger fencing? Because
No. Maybe Jill, Councillor Selk could speak to that a bit.
It was for this, but the fencing costs also included going around the basketball court, the taller stuff, any screening that we might want, any of the lighting. We were looking at having big lighting poles, which aren't needed at this point in time. Benches,
Exactly.
picnic tables, that kind of thing.
So the
it was
Cadillac,
Yeah.
not the VW bug. Yeah, exactly.
No offense to VW owners.
I'm just offending left, right, and center. Sorry.
Okay, so
Councilor Barnes and then the mayor.
I'm still trying to figure out why this area out this way wasn't included in there. I've had several people that approached me and said they felt that this area was too small.
but I don't know, I don't have a dog. But anyways, I'm just trying to figure out why that area is not included in there.
Are you
as
talking
part
about
of
the
it.
East Council?
I'm talking the east area there. Yeah, you know how you got this line going, this little B?
Yep.
Why on the south side of that parking lot, the school area, why that wasn't included? I think that would really be beneficial, but
Okay, everybody wants to get on the conversation. Councilor Brown and then Mayor.
Well, I mean, I can answer that.
please.
They want as much as they can get,
Yeah.
but it's council that kept going, nope, 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 and
I
kept
don't ever recall
moving the
that
boundaries.
myself. I
Well,
always wanted that much.
But it had to be made, smaller. They felt smaller because of the prime location that they felt it was. Originally, when we first talked about it, we did want the bigger area. And when I say we, I mean the
Yeah, yeah.
dog park people. They
Yeah.
did want more. Of course they did. They wanted to be able to run their big dogs. They wanted to have the
Mhm.
square footage to let them go and have them fenced in. But then we had to walk it back due to the pool, right? The feces being close to the pool. And then there were we just kept walking and walking and walking it closer. And now because of the prime real estate, it was made to a lot smaller of an area. That was my understanding.
Okay, so if I can't understand that little piece left out, what makes that prime? Because there's not that much room to do anything with it, other than I think the dog park should be there, personally.
It's currently maintained by the school.
But is it their property?
No, it's the
Then-
towns, as is the
it
parking
doesn't
lot, but
matter then.
there's a fence there.
Yeah.
There's already some fencing infrastructure and things, and they
Yeah.
manicure it and irrigate it and all those things. So we kept it out, frankly, for a matter of convenience. And we haven't consulted with the school division for its use either.
Yeah, no, that's the reason.
Oh, we have, Jill's shaking
Yeah,
vigorously
I
that we
thought-
have.
I thought you had.
I talked to the school division on that. They would prefer that not being used for it
That's right.
because of they take care of it and they manicure it and they want to have that nice little area just off the road there. They would prefer it not being used.
Thank you.
Okay. So,
Mayor.
so maybe Debbie could help us with this one. Debbie, imagine the grant fails, because honestly, lately we have more grants failing than succeeding, for whatever reason that is, but it's a reality. Give me a sense what your $11,000 will do for us. So please.
The $11,000 that has already been
Raised.
is a start. And that's always been our mentality is this isn't just get the park up and we're going to walk away and have a beautiful park. This is, we're going to have a park and we're going to keep bettering that park. This is why we want to do the beautification process. I actually like having that green space there because it is beautiful and they've done a good job. And I don't see how we can't work with other parts of the community who want to keep things beautiful. We want to do the same. Our $11,000 initially is for fencing because that's our first priority. Fencing is the only thing that stops us from going forward. Once we have a fence up that's safe, that's appropriate, then we can work on getting in those extra lights. Or I recognize there is some things in that area that need to be fixed by the town. And we've kind of discussed things that might need to be moved, et cetera. But to me, I also look at that space right now saying all it needs is a fence.
So, Debbie, you've walked the area with Councilor Brown since the last time we chatted 2 weeks
Correct.
ago, and you're comfortable with the space that she pointed out to you. You're okay with it?
But it's smaller than that, isn't it?
If you're giving me that option over the agrodome, that's my answer. However, am I comfortable with that? Until yesterday, I had a dog this big. So that dog takes 4 steps to get across from what we discussed, when I'm saying we with Councilor Brown. I am happier to have that location as a phase 1 to see how well that these supporters and the many others who texted me saying we would love to be there, but we can't, to show you that we are a responsible group, that this concern over feces and dog barking and those kind of things really doesn't phase into us, because we want this to take care of our dogs. We want it to be bettering the community members. And by having it down there, that's what I think it's doing. So I look at that as my goal right now. But what we're talking about,
So your $11,000 could do what we're suggesting, the smaller
the
piece.
smaller piece,
Is that what you're-
yes.
That's what I'm asking. is-
Yes,
so we
it
can do
could,
that.
or could it do more? We have free labor to put in that fencing, and we have cost of fencing. We are not paying extra for the fencing. Those have been donated to us by other contractors. So it's just the cost of said fencing that we're looking at.
Can we then have a sense of what a smaller piece would be on this map?
Yeah, 1 second here. So let me do something different here.
And then I will ask something towards that fencing.
Mhm.
Okay, so I don't know the best way to do this because I don't know exactly your concept, but tell me where to start and what direction to go.
Okay, you're still taking in that corner where there's already concrete on the bottom right
Yeah.
corner. You're going. So from here.
Yeah,
you're
just
gonna-
touch and it'll place a point and then go to the next point.
Okay, so let's just touch here.
Yep.
And we're gonna go down here.
Yep.
And we're gonna go-ish here
Yeah.
to about here. Trees. And then we're gonna go up here.
Oh, I see.
That was
Okay.
phase one. That's phase one, or, yeah,
Okay,
it's the start to me.
okay,
Third
so,
of an acre,
okay, how much is it?
0.31 acres.
Not very
not
big. Not very
Very
big.
big, is it?
It is
Okay.
not.
All right, so imagine that is what is approved. Imagine that. The temporary word may come back, but might be something we should maybe consider. Instead of putting the fence and concrete pole, as concrete posts, maybe the town could help with putting some kind of footing where the fence can slip in, so that if at the end you get your money, you can do it bigger and get the bigger area, you can just remove the fence and reposition it without having to demolish the concrete footing. Just a thought. It would be less expensive.
So my question to that, I guess, would be, so great idea, first of all. But are you then saying if they do get the grant, that you would support the idea of the bigger area? Because I thought the only reason we shrunk it is because at our last meeting, and correct me if I'm wrong, at the last meeting we had as council, that there was a lot of people not, because it's prime real estate, you wanted it smaller. So that's why we didn't shrink it for money. We shrunk it because you all seem to
yeah.
not support the prime real estate idea.
I think what it was that this was an opportunity to have a trial basis, a
Yeah.
place where they could have a trial dog park and see how the rest of the citizens feel about it.
Mhm.
And it is possible for the town to put in drill stem and make the foundation so that it can be adjusted. So the idea was this would be done on a trial basis, see how the rest of the town feels about it.
The thing,
Just an opinion.
I'm just regarding that the 3.34 meters that go straight down the center of kind of that newer area, that fencing, straight fencing, it could always be used otherwise. So that to me doesn't add a cost. Does that make, like, it seems you were saying something about that when we raise more money and worried about demolishing, I think was the word you used. I'm not demolishing that fence.
no.
No, okay.
It's
No,
not
if it
demolishing
was
the
in
fence.
concrete.
It's
Oh, I
it's
see.
a footing, the concrete
Mm.
footing. Right?
Okay.
It's much easier if you have a sleeve in which you can put your fence in that is deep enough to make it solid rather than to have concrete.
And cheaper, I would think. would it?
And the town could do that for you. I'm pretty sure we can manufacture that. We have some people that are pretty good at it.
So the mayor's volunteering to do that for you, Danny.
Done.
She's gonna cut those down.
Okay,
Barns.
to me, that looks very small. That's barely as big as my backyard. And I get 2 dogs in my backyard with my daughter and my son get their dogs in there. There's barely room in there for those 2 dogs to run around. So I can't imagine if all of a sudden everybody brings their dogs there. I think we need a bigger spot. I think that whole doggone spot needs to be used. That's my opinion.
Can I
But-
just?
I never, ever said that I was concerned about making it smaller. I was not at that meeting. Okay? I've always thought we were going to use that whole piece because that, in my opinion, is a waste. It's way too small. Like I said, my kid's got a humongous standard Labradoodle. And that dog takes about 5 bounds across that yard and he's there having to stop at the fence.
I feel ya.
So I think we need to use the whole thing. That's my opinion.
But Councillor Barnes, if I remember, you were the one who suggested the agrodome
Yes.
many
Oh,
times.
yeah, because it's big. I was
I-
looking at the
Come on, give
size.
me a
I
second,
think
give
this
me a-
whole thing is
Give
probably
me a break.
plenty. Hey, there's lots of spots around town. It's just people don't want to drive there. My kids drive 25 minutes to get to a dog park in Edmonton and don't complain about it.
No.
But we're used to having everything close. We don't have a lot of opportunity way out there. And probably out there at the Agrodome, the horses and the cattle won't like the dogs.
Can I?
So I mean, that was just a spot that I thought, because we had the space. But I'm okay with this, totally,
Fantastic.
but not for a small dinky little spot like that.
Great.
Well, Councillor, you change your
Councillor
mind.
Completely changed my
Could I
mind.
just
Hey.
ask a question then? So I was always under the impression, and I wasn't at this last meeting, I was out of town. I was under the impression that it was this whole area.
Yeah,
Do you have enough
absolutely.
fencing to do that area?
I think we looked at, well, when we got our original quotes kind of done, it was going to be about $16,000, but that included a small dog park and multiple gates.
When you get close
At
to
this
that.
point, one gate is one gate and one perimeter fence is not as pricey as what we originally looked at. We looked at, I think they said, the Cadillac versus the Volkswagen Bug. Yeah, our Cadillac still has more money coming in.
Yeah, I'm in favor of the whole.
Me too.
That's how I saw it.
About the whole, what do you mean by the whole?
Well,
The whole river.
the original, that we.
That
what
one,
we
right
chatted
there.
about.
Took
Yeah.
the whole, which go
Red.
much more south.
Red.
And that's what we decided
That's what we thought.
many months ago, so I was kind
Oh.
of shocked when we were talking about that.
decide that.
Yeah,
Anyway,
make it happen.
Well,
perfect.
things are improving for you.
Wow, we're getting better looking. Sweet.
Now we just need decisions, right?
Thank you.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Which is that?
Good. Actually, Jack, you need to be on the agenda to address council. Would you like to make an appointment to address council?
Just a quick question here. Why wouldn't they just go straighten that fence out? Saves quite a bit of.
Money. Yeah, fencing.
Instead of the V.
On this,
But
Sir Brown?
I think the moral of the story here is, and I hear what you're saying, Mr. Malin, but I think for council, it's let's approve the spot. I mean, I realize it's CCW. I understand how this all works, but from what I'm hearing, things are looking better. But I think it's more so we approve the spot and then we direct administration with the dog park people to, put it here, put it straighter, but we have an area-ish for them. And now let's let them and administration figure out the straight, the turn, the twist, the gates. I don't feel like that's council's. I don't feel like we need to be a part of that
No, that's right.
conversation.
Can I ask something?
Go ahead, Mayor.
I'm just trying to piggyback on what you're saying. It's a thought. When you said that it should be a trial, because possibly of the reaction of people to the noise or to the barking or whatever. So how do we intend to deal with them? People complaining, is that going to change our mind or not? That's what I want to see, because if you start to put some infrastructure and then people are there, we haven't consulted with people in this town at all. So where is their voice regarding that? If it is possibly an issue,
Councilor Brown.
which I do not know that it is, but it could be.
To answer your question, and obviously I'm just speaking for myself, but when originally the dog park was brought up and it was looked at the top of the hill over by, the top of the hill that I'm talking about.
Remember that.
Wow. Anyway, when they looked at the top of the hill, I'm here to tell you, my phone went off the hook with people angry at me that I would dare have the dog park in their backyard, close to residential. And so, great, you bet. And if y'all remember, brought it to council, we talked about it. And that's why this whole thing kind of started. And then Debbie and her people came and they went hunting for locations. Jill was a part of that. And they came up with this area. Those same people have not, the only thing I've heard from them is fantastic. Thank you for not putting it in a residential area. Thank you for putting it in there. And honestly, to that, I would also say we have an election coming up. So if you are not in favor of the dog park, then make sure that the councillors you're putting into place aren't in favor of it. Or if you are in favor of it, make sure that the councillors that you're putting in are in favor of it. Because I feel like your vote counts. If you support it, then make sure you're pushing forward. That's the only way I hear from people is when they threaten me, that's great. But also when they say, we voted you in, here's why, here's what you need to do for us. That's my perspective of, I don't think we need to do an open house. I don't think this is a dog park. We're not gonna do it for buying golf carts. We would just buy golf carts. I don't feel we have to over government this. I feel like we should be able to say, we're going to do a dog park. It's going to be in this area. We're going to let them do what they do best. And the town's here to work with them. And let's give it a try. That's my perspective.
Barnes and Councilor Court.
Okay, I want to tell Councillor Brown, I'm totally in agreement with what she said. And I might add, I've had my share of whining people come to my office or phone me. Don't you dare put it in my backyard. But I've heard that many people complain about this site here. It's not in a residential area. They have nothing to complain about. We did the research. Alberta Health Services said they don't have a problem with us having this here by the swimming pool. So that to me was the only criteria of concern. So I think we need to go here. That's my feeling.
Councilor Court.
Be it small, be it large, I'm fine with whatever down in here, but I do have a bit of a umbrage, is that the good word for it? Of making this an election, making this a one election thing. Well, he's not supporting the dog part, so I will not vote for that because there's 50,000 other things out there. So I don't like that idea of saying, well, if you don't like that.
It's not an issue.
Well, that's why I think it is. So I think they shouldn't be just throwing it out. This is a one issue thing, not everything else. Again, I don't have a problem with the site either.
Yeah. Okay. So having said all this, I think we could entertain a resolution to put the dog park here, and the size and the shape and everything else. We'll work with Debbie and her crew on what's most appropriate and what they can afford. You're sucking back to reload, I assume.
No, I just want to make sure that we make the proper decision at this point and not let them go on and off wondering what's happening. Or we support it, or we don't. And if the size has to be the larger one, then we will have to decide on that. But I think they need to know.
I think
There is money,
I think that's kind of what I was inferring, is that
but
we've settled on this as a location. And that we should probably make it by resolution, a recommendation for the next council meeting. next week.
Councillor, if I could just go ahead and if I can add that, but go ahead, Councillor Court.
You have to make that resolution.
Before you do, can I add my thing now?
Yes, you can.
Sorry, because that's what it was about. You have a February 9th resolution that I think works fine.
Yeah.
What I would suggest is if we'll talk this week, yeah, it would be this week, we talk with Debbie one more time and then bring you a plan to ratify.
That sounds good to me.
that's it.
But you have a good resolution, I think, on February 9th that is precisely what you're trying to get across now.
Okay, Councilor Brown.
Just to be crystal clear, because I'm feeling like we need that.
Okay.
So just to be crystal clear, what I'm hearing this time around is that council, it supports, this isn't just in theory, the council would support it being here, and that we're not talking the smaller size, we're talking the red-ish, you know, pending straightness, all of this. That's my understanding. Is that right?
It seems to
You're
me
cha-
that's what, no,
Okay.
it seems to me that's what I'm hearing too.
Thank you, Mayor. That how freaking lit. Yep, perfect. That's what we're talking.
Yeah, if we've already got a resolution for February the 9th, this is redundant to even have another one. I
Well-
think we're already in agreement.
I think correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but the resolution in February, it was in
In principle.
principle. That's-
Correct. It was moved that council approved the proposed location for the dog park in principle pending a final design approved by the dog park committee and administration.
Right.
So if you'll entertain that next week,
Well, let's
then
not,
you can.
let's change it from principle to factual.
You can just
Yeah.
approve the
Yeah.
plan. It'd be fine.
So basically, you will come after consultation. with
Yeah.
The prime plan, but we've settled on the location.
Yep.
Okay,
Good.
we all good?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Can I ask one more question?
Okay, and the mayor is gonna ask one more question.
Okay, for me, it always comes to dollar, right? So you have $11,000, but that whole fencing, do we know what it comes to?
That's what he's going to find out.
What we know, if I might, Mr. Chairman,
Mhm.
what we know is the current iteration is 1,050 feet of fence, 3 gates, 2 entrances. So we can narrow that down pretty darn close, I think.
So you can bring it to your 11,000, Debbie, is
Well,
that
we'll
the
see.
idea? Around there-ish? You'll
Yeah.
be able to be pretty close.
I see.
Okay, well, that's good. Good job.
Can we move on?
There's a whole bunch
Move
of
on.
boring stuff now. If you want to stay, you're welcome to. No more dog park stuff.
Yeah, there we go.
Go walk your dog.
Go walk your dogs.
Well, the rest of council is just as scintillating as the dog. Want to stick around?
Well, there you go. Now we inform and we enlighten.
Now they're gonna vote against it.
I ain't moving to Montreal, that's for sure.
Nobody's going to be concerned about parking in that area.
Councillor Selk, you need to do adoption of minutes too. We
I know,
jumped over
I'm
that.
going back to number
It's good.
5.
Okay, I'll do that
I
for
had-
you.
Okay, let's go back to 5. We have the adoption of June the 1st CCW meeting.
I'll do that,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. To adopt recommendation, no, to adopt the
Minutes.
minutes of the CCW of June 1st, 2021.
All in favor? Okay, we're gonna wait for Jeff to walk us through A and B of number 6.
Zoom meeting.
This is 6A.
Yeah.
Garbage recycling bylaw.
I'm might have to disappear.
Oh, we're gonna forge ahead now, Mayor, come on.
Yeah,
Please
we're,
do.
we're motoring now.
What?
We'll be motoring now.
Yeah. Jeff, do you want to walk us through? A?
Yeah, council, some of you will recall, even going back, I think 8 or 10 months ago when Mr. Beamer came, we talked about some amendments to it. We've met with him a couple of times again. I want to just, what you have in here is a number of things he's recommending and we're recommending to update in the garbage bylaw, but there are a couple of, let's call them really prescribed clauses I wanted to get your opinion on. I'm not 100% comfortable with. Just before we bring this back to a council meeting for any readings. If you pull up the draft 1693, for example, there were some concerns from the contractor about, homemade garbage cans that were, the chained lid that were clunking him in the back of the head when he tipped it over. And those kind of things aren't good. We don't want that for the safety of our contractor. But if you go to page 4 or sections, let's say 5 and 6.
Is that part 2, receptacles and
Yeah,
collection?
correct. I am a little bit concerned about things like 5E that say it can't be any smaller than 60 liters or larger than 100. So my first question would be, why can't it be 50 liters? And why can't it be 105 if it's not over 40 pounds, for example?
Right.
It was more of a weight, and I'm not trying to make light of these conditions. I understand why they're proposed, but I'm just saying I want a little feedback. The next one, for example, is between 70 and 80 centimeters in height. Are we really going to measure containers within 10 centimeters of their height? I sure hope not, by the way.
We want Sean to drive around with a tape measure.
Yeah, no, I don't want to go there at all. And I think for me, I understand why this is there, and we've taken this from other communities as well. It's in there because you don't want these obnoxiously cumbersome and large pieces. But really, it's about if you have a 120-liter container that's 80 pounds, it's not getting picked up.
Yeah.
It's too heavy.
Yeah.
And so you leave it. But I'm a little concerned about some of those really specific that if it's more than 40 or 50 to 50 centimeters in diameter at the top, I mean, is there harm in a 39 or 51 centimeter container? And I'm not convinced there is. In my opinion, it's much more of a condition and weight issue than it is a centimeters issue. And so I just want a little feedback on your thoughts on that.
Okay, I was thinking about that too. When I looked at it, I thought that's pretty restrictive. You've got some seniors that are still living in their homes, and not everybody's in the lodge, and they're not gonna have humongous big containers. They're gonna have, and sometimes that small container might not even go out every other week so I think that to say you have to have such a big container for somebody that's not gonna fill it up in 2 or 3 weeks, I think that's kind of over the top.
Okay, Mayor,
Jeff.
you have a Zoom call, so.
Yeah.
Just no bigger than, I think, is satisfactory.
I just would say, if you remove those clause and leave the weight kind of, would that be sufficient?
So
And if it's too heavy,
yeah.
could you have some sticker?
we
and-
have that.
And have too heavy,
Yeah.
no pickup.
Yeah, we have overweight
Period.
limit stickers already.
I mean, we have that in Europe. They used to give you a pallet,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Darcy has them.
Yeah, we
And-
have them. Yeah.
And so let's use them and forget about the specifications.
Can I just ask a question then on the size that we're talking? Is he concerned about the ability to pick that up and maneuver and handle?
You
it?
do see some, like, there's a couple people in town that have like the curbside pickup bins on the
yeah.
big rollers. I mean, those things just on their own are 40 pounds.
Awesome,
Yeah, without anything in them.
Yeah, so in that case, he just needs to sticker it and say,
Okay.
this thing's 60 pounds. I'm not picking it up, you
And-
know? So we do need to, I thought the wording could be even something that it's a container that is manufactured for the purpose of, garbage refuse, and it isn't homemade, and that it's in good condition and can be picked up readily. And we can have a couple of things like that versus 70 centimeters.
Yeah, I think so.
That's kind of what we were thinking.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
sounds like that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, other than that, honestly, we didn't have, we are drafting the agreement with homeowners. For example, I think we used Dr. Strang last time. where if Darcy drives up into his property, Dr. Strang has to sign an indemnity of liability for the town and for Darcy. So if he doesn't want to take it out to home seekers, and Darcy's okay to drive up there, but if he clips something turning through there,
That's so sad.
the homeowner has indemnified the town in the contract.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be a schedule in that. And other than that, you've seen, oh, and the other one that you may, from a political purpose, is saying that curbside storage bins or sheds, he's not gonna take the garbage out of them. If you wanna put them on your lawn, I guess, well, that says they shall not be permitted to be located on the curb. So we get these homemade boxes that people bike strap together and they keep all their garbage out there. He's saying we shouldn't be yarding garbage out of those things. That people can put their garbage on the curb. If they want a box back by the driveway or
In a
back by the side of the
container
house,
or a bag.
go ahead. But then take the bag out and put it on the curb on garbage day.
Mhm.
Because you've seen some of those and you open that lid and everything's falling
It's terrible.
every which way. So he doesn't want, and he mentioned that to you guys too. He doesn't want to be messing with, with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that was really some of the major things. I just wanted some feedback on. The rest is pretty minor and pretty straightforward.
So
Yeah.
that'll come forward next week.
Yeah, we'll tweak the size dimension thing and bring it back for a reading next week if you're okay with that. Yep. Okay, that was it. on
First
that.
reading next week.
I can't remember now.
Like it's.
Yeah.
And 1696, Jeff?
Yeah, so the same thing here. You've seen this for first reading. There was some concern over defining the fancier's license, so we've added some more wording. In the definition, we had some good discussion about this. The definition now reads that you need a fancier's license if you're harboring more than 2 of the same domestic animal. And we didn't bring up the total of 7 because nowhere under the bylaw, more than 7 animals is simply prohibited. You can't get a license for that.
Exactly.
Right? It's just not something. So fanciers is if you have more than 2 of the same type of domestic animal in your home, and then you fall under that. And we expanded on that a little bit further in the text, but everything else was really minor, really basic.
I have a question on that.
Surprise.
So cat licenses,
Yeah.
there have been, in my experience, people who have 15 and 20 cats.
Yeah.
Are we saying that that's not acceptable?
Right? We're saying you can have up to 7
Yeah.
You
okay.
fancy it.
if you get a fancier's
If you
license
get a
and your
fancier's license.
property is subject to
Can't
inspection.
just be somebody taking in cats all the time. And
We've
Yeah.
had some real
I'm
health
serious. I've
issues.
sold property and it's nasty to see that happen.
Yeah, except there's an exception inside there. If you're working at sheltering to be relocated, you're allowed to have more than 7.
But we know them,
Exactly.
right? We know them
So-
and work with them.
If that is a purpose, that's a different category
Yeah,
altogether.
that is-
They've been identified by the town.
Yeah, we know them and work with them, and those animals are of a temporary nature.
Right.
Any other questions?
Because
No?
yes, Counselor, that's a problem.
Okay.
So we'll bring that back for second, potentially third reading next week.
6C, Town of McGrath, they sent us a letter. Jeff had a great idea, and that's that we should just include all communities in the county of Cardston and just expand that whole notion. It's not just reciprocal between McGrath and Cardston and the county. It's everybody in the county of Cardston, and that way we know who's got licenses. It's all one thing. It's all consistent. Jeff, do you want to elaborate any
Yeah,
further?
my thought when I read this, I don't have any problem with it. We already have a regional license agreement with communities to the west of us.
That
So
was the
getting into
Alberta
Pincher Creek,
Southwest?
the Alberta Southwest program. We already have a reciprocal agreement with the county, but we don't have it with the villages or McGrath within the county. And it may be an interesting thing for the county to develop just a standardized Cardston County business license, and all of us sell the same thing.
Yeah.
And we don't care if the person's from the county working in Cardston or the villages, we don't get too worried about that. And anyone from Lethbridge or out of town can just buy a Cardston County license, which is honored by all the municipalities. And we work out how we're going to revenue share that type of arrangement. I think basically what we'd be doing is saying, yes, we have one with the county and the town of McGrath, but not the villages.
Right.
And let's just I would go back and
Include
propose to
everybody.
them that we do one for the entire county.
Yeah.
I think it's a great
I like that
idea,
idea.
Jeff. So you're gonna
Yeah,
propose that.
I'll propose that back to the county, and if it looks like there's agreement there, we'll do that. Yep.
7A, Chinook Arch letter. Looks like we've got our questions answered and it's all good. We're gonna be getting lower requisition. So
So I'll be bringing
anybody have a
back-
problem with getting our
Yeah.
thing reduced? Okay, then we can move
The
on.
next meeting, you'll have what we had last meeting, that they want a resolution to support the amendments to their agreement. That'll be on next week.
Okay, good. You all saw the letter from the Alberta Association of Community Peace Officers, and we would like to support that because our peace officer does not have, I mean, he has a working relationship with the RCMP, but it would be better if he could just talk to them over radio. So I think, do you need a recommendation from
Yeah,
us,
I
Jeff,
would
for you
need
to
a
draft a letter?
Please.
Okay, Mayor, are you making that resolution?
Yeah, I'm making a resolution that the town drafts a letter in support of Alberta Association of Community Peace Officers.
Good, that's good. Perfect, thank you. All in favor? Good. Business arising from delegations. How poor are you feeling after D?
That's fair.
I think that's a fair statement, isn't it?
That's fair. And he didn't even mention the $1.2 million clubhouse.
No, I didn't even get
So-
into that. It's like, okay, 350 plus one.
So it was already $1 million, not counting the clubhouse.
Yeah, there's, I appreciate Paul and Miles. We hired them specifically because they could look at what it needs to elevate this thing, right? So
Then you
we'll
destroy
just
their
work through the
plan.
budget process of that. They both understand that completely too.
Right.
The only thing that may come pre-budget is if we can find a contractor for all 16.
Right.
Is I would be coming to you to transfer some reserve.
Yeah.
To get that project done this fall.
Perfect. So I think everyone is sort of, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but I think we're all kind of on the same page. You boys make a lot of money and pitter patter. You
Yeah.
can get at it. Is that
Just one thing on that, I'd be thrilled to get this shovel in the ground for that
clubhouse?
clubhouse is small.
Well-
We cannot keep delaying it.
Except I need to come up with the money. The money
But
doesn't
we
come
might
out
have
of
to look at a
it.
different design for a clubhouse where we can afford it.
I think even the mayor would agree with that if we don't see some green crossing our palm.
I mean,
soon.
honestly,
Can't move forward till you get the money.
Well, we
I think what
can.
will happen is it will be a modified version of what they're looking at. That's within our
1,500 square
budget.
foot or
that
something.
I
we've
mean,
already
what I
reserved.
have, it's a beautiful rendition.
It's fantastic.
I love the design, I love the concepts, and what we need to do is for them to become creative as to how to raise money.
We could put up a Raymond Foremost, whatever golf for $500,000.
Yeah.
But we,
So let this group run with this design because it's been designed now and we've paid
I
Mr.
needed a
Hasakawa
design
to do everything. So
get the
now they
money.
can go out and raise funds.
So Jeff, we do have some skin in the game from revenues from last year, right?
Yeah, you've reserved, what did
Reserved
we
like
have?
200
In the high threes, I think we put
Yeah.
towards
That's what I
reserves
thought.
for it. Yeah, something
Okay.
like that.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, D2, Historical Society, thoughts, comments?
Well,
It sounds like they want to
Yeah.
pour the pad and then raise some money. Is that,
Yep.
I
let
think,
them have it.
And the other thing,
I'm-
they want to have the money that was donated to help to do this stuff, right? That's what the money's
What
for.
it's for, yeah.
We need a resolution, recommendation.
No, I
I
think.
think we
Okay.
can just tell them we support what they're doing and
Yeah.
have at her and
Good.
do what you can do with the money you've got.
Just an internal transfer. of
Yeah, I think
funds.
it's fine.
Okay, 8.
I taught at that school.
Questions. Councillor Brown, do you have questions about Heritage Week?
I do. I actually just have a few things that I wanted to run past you as council, just to make sure, to keep you in the loop and to make sure that you support it, because I don't want to be doing something if it's not on behalf of all of us. So if I can just take a minute, Mayor, I'll be super fast. No, but I know you
Don't
got a
hold yourself
call.
to a minute. It might
Yeah,
take longer.
I know.
Yes, it will take more than a minute. Okay, first of all, last year, we came up with the idea, Councillor Court and myself, and correct me and step in at any time if
Sure
I'm
will.
out of line. So we came up with the idea of we wanted a word that represented last year. And so we had a word, and then I talked to a good friend of mine, Ramona Bighead, and she came up with the Blackfoot word for the word we used last year. So this year I was trying to think of a word that represented what we've been through, but I also wanted to bring the First Nation culture and what they've been through in the last year. And the word that came to me was resilience. Resilience. And I think resilience is, there's no other word. And anyway, I would love to tell you the Blackfoot word for it. I have it. I can spell it, but I'm not willing to say it because I will butcher it badly. Yeah. There's a lot of A's and anyway. So, but I think in advertising and going forward, if council approves, I think it's a great idea to have the two just like we did last year. Does that sound reasonable? Go for it.
Can I,
Absolutely.
with a word, on a monument, there is an interesting word that really seemed to resonate with First Nation a lot, was reconnect. And isn't it Heritage Day, the day that we reconnect? And so that word is already there. I don't know, just think about it.
Okay.
If reconnect, it seems to be a very, very strong word because of all the family and what we're doing with heritage is really reconnecting with the past, with the present.
So, Councillor, how quickly do you want to, if we all rack our brains for a week and we come back and say
Absolutely.
resilience or reconnect?
Oh, no, I mean, what do you guys want?
Resilience.
I talked to Ramona in regards to it and her words,
Resilient.
I mean,
Well, she was,
yeah, so let me just tell you what she actually said, so I don't put words in her
then
mouth.
it's great. If
This
she
is-
likes it, why not?
This is what she said. She said the word, and then she said, it's never let obstacles get in the way of achieving goals. Being able to work independently against all odds.
Oh, perfect.
You've got grit.
Perfect.
So,
True grit. I love it.
Yeah.
so
Going with
I mean,
resilience.
I mean,
No,
I'm not.
I think
I think
that
it incorporates
concept
both.
I think that concept is
Yeah,
better.
so thanks,
Okay, well, there
Councillor.
you go. So
Yeah,
there
I
it
did.
is.
I did run it past Ramona because,
Okay, well, if
I
you
just-
have already
Are you
have
okay
done
with that?
but I
Councillor-
wanted to make sure that.
Councillor Drew?
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm okay.
True grit. I'm good. Let's go.
Okay, sorry, I'm not done. Okay, and then, so throughout, it was my understanding that you wanted Councillor Court and myself to come up with a game plan of A-ish and B-ish pending COVID-ish, was my understanding. And so we've ish done that. And so I'm running with we're doing all of the things we did last year. I won't talk about them all because y'all know what we did last year. We're doing all the things that we did last year, but we're just doing a few of the things we've done in the past that we weren't able to, like the parade or different things. And we're incorporating that into this, but we're still doing the rock show. And then we're still doing, like Councillor Court said, the
car show. Family ball tournament.
all of that. And we're
Councillor Blaine talked about what the historical
scavenger
society-
hunt, like those things. Like I feel like we're trying to take the best of the non-COVID and the COVID and we're wrapping it all into one, which means we're hopping, but it's all good.
And the Ag Society will take care of the rodeo.
Yes.
And actually, and we also may have bullied them into taking over, I know you're surprised, taking over the drive-in movie. And the reason is because why would we give $4,000 of taxpayer money to a Red Deer business when we can take that same money and put it right back into Cardston? And so the Ag Society called me and said they are willing to do it. They're going to build a screen. They're handling it. And they've told me that they want to do it. Well, it doesn't matter, but they want to do it. So
Good.
I'm like, I
Do it.
wanted to bring that to you to make sure y'all agree with that.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then the next thing,
Money at home.
right. And I'm hoping that the screening all works out. It's gonna be great. The other thing was I've got a fantastic musical band that has played all over. They're very well known and they would like to do a family dance. We haven't done one of those in a bit. Y'all used to do it a bit ago, but we haven't done it in a bit. And so the thought was, could we do a family dance and incorporate it into, whether it's a Friday or a Saturday night? And so the amount that they ask to be paid was more than I was comfortable with, because I have a budget and I'm really trying, and I will stay in that budget that council has approved. But so then the band suggested, it's actually Cam Clark, he suggested, well, what if I went ahead and got, pending council approved, what if, he said, what if I went ahead and got sponsoring for it? So then it's no longer, I no longer have to come up with that number. He could find other avenues of income to do this dance. I wanted your thoughts on that.
But how much money are we looking
So
at?
$1,200 was brought up, would be how much I would have to budget. Councillor Court and I would have to budget. I don't have that in my budget. And so he's suggesting that he would go out and see what he could drum up as far as sponsors go, and that we might be able to meet in the middle, which we possibly could do that.
So, Councillor Brown,
Yes.
maybe if you jump to another item, which is the power, because the power, and the reason I want to talk about that is because of the money and the implication. Okay, so how much are you putting towards the power? Because they have a fairly high figure, 2,000 and I don't know what.
Yeah, I'm just bringing up David Innes's text. Continue.
So there is a portion that we can take from the power money that we have in the budget now, but we cannot take it out of committee money.
I'm aware.
No, because
Right.
we just don't have the signing officer to be
know.
able to do that for
Yeah.
us. But there is $5,000 approved in that budget.
Correct.
So there is a certain amount of money that possibly we could liberate, depending on how much money you have in your budget, because now that you don't have the drive-in movie, you should be able to.
But I do have the
Cover.
drive-in movie because I'm still paying for it.
Okay, but you're just letting the ag
I'm
society
taking the
run it.
drive-in
Okay,
movie
so-
money and giving it to the Agrodome.
Okay,
So that money
okay.
isn't allowed, isn't.
All right,
I have a
so
question.
how much, just give
Go
me a
ahead.
second, how much money did you have there for the power in your budget right now?
So under the powwow, it's listed as $5,000.
Okay, so we will not need $5,000.
Okay.
We'll need a high of 3,000.
So I guess my question to that is, so if it's listed under, because I've got it, Jill just gave me everything listed, right? Because when we were doing the budget, everything's listed under different categories. Am I allowed to take $50 from here and 120 from here? And am I allowed to do this as long as it's the heritage money? I didn't think I was allowed to touch the powwow money, that 5,000.
Yeah, not without our consent,
No, but that's my point.
but that's what I'm saying. How much within your budget of your Heritage Day did you have the power for?
About 3.
Okay, well, then in that case, I think what we need to collectively decide that if you were short 600 for that other event, you might be able to do that. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say.
So in other words, we might have the money for it.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So leave it alone.
Council Brown, we're gonna turn the couch upside down and find some change.
Hey,
So the question I had regarding the powwow money is, we didn't use it last year. We had,
It was rolled over.
it was, well, but
Rolled over.
were we gonna use that money for this year, or did we designate another 5,000?
But you didn't tax again.
Okay, so it's just, we
last
just have the
year's, correct.
1.5, okay. that's
But we're
what I
doing the
found.
mini power. And
Right,
it's costing us a certain amount of money.
Right, it doesn't cost us as much as it.
No,
I will say that the.
That works good for me.
Last year was very popular.
yeah.
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 Went to different
Hugely.
venues.
and
Yeah.
we're doing it again.
Open, yes.
We're doing it on,
Different spots.
yeah, well,
have
similar. So
four
we're doing it
events.
Tuesdays and Wednesdays. We're doing it at Lee Crest and the Chinook. And then we're doing it at the courthouse and the hospital.
That's right.
So Tuesday and Wednesdays, just like
Do you wanna-
council.
do you want to bring us back online here? or-
Can
Sorry.
you and I meet this week just to make sure we're both comfortable with all the budget stuff? as you're starting to make those commitments, let's just make sure you're not writing checks that we
Yeah,
can't.
So
exactly.
to be fair, I haven't spent any money yet.
No, I understand that.
I mean,
We're
I
just
haven't.
making those commitments.
Yeah,
If you and I
Yeah.
sit down, let's just
Yeah,
spreadsheet the whole
absolutely.
thing and make sure we're good.
awesome.
Okay.
Hey,
No,
can I
I've got
just, can I just interject for 1 second? The mayor needs to go, and there's one question that I have, and
Okay.
that's CCW in August. Is there a need for it? Because in conversations with Jeff earlier today, it doesn't sound like our agenda would be really heavy.
Nope,
and
I don't think so.
CCW is probably not necessary. Is everyone okay with that?
So
I'm personally okay with it. When is the meeting in August?
Second,
13th,
Is
isn't it?
that
Heritage
half,
Week?
half of, no,
No,
it's a week after, I believe.
Week after.
That's,
okay.
Wait, wait,
Fine.
CCW will be the 3rd.
which is Heritage Week.
so 10,
Yes.
so the 17th, so when is the 10th?
10th would be your council.
Okay, all right,
meeting.
so there you go.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so thoughts?
Yeah, no, I have no problem with that. No, what I was throwing out there is, we got parades going on, and we haven't assigned people to attend the parades. You went to Raymond,
As usual.
okay? And I've always gone to the Sterling
Always.
Parade,
We haven't seen invitations for any other parades yet.
okay, because I've heard that the Sterling.
Yeah,
is
we
gonna
don't
go
know
forward,
what's going on there.
But
Don't draw attention.
Yeah, you know, I mean, the parade, you will go as per your assignment from the past. I would
If they're
imagine
holding
if we have an invitation, let's do as in the past. and
yeah,
let's don't
okay,
worry
I just
about
wanted to know that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so,
I'm sorry, but I
Likely
have
we
to
will-
leave.
go ahead.
Likely we will not be having a CCW.
We will not have one then.
So
Okay.
there will be
Unless
no
something
meeting
comes
on the
up.
3rd. That's what you're
That's
telling me.
No CCW.
So if in fact I need something, because that's Heritage Week and that's gonna be a little bit hairy in our lives.
Right.
If there's something that needs to be addressed, I guess it will just be an email.
Send an email to Jeff and Jeff will disseminate it to us all.
Fantastic.
And remember, council, you can always call a special meeting.
Right, because we're not doing the 3rd meeting in July either.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
So if we
You
need.
just got the
Meeting
meeting
next
next
week.
week.
That's it
I'm
for
just making
July.
sure. Just
Yeah,
in case.
sorry, guys, but
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank
I
you.
suppose that special meeting could be that 3rd week if we needed it, right?
Okay.
Just keep that in mind.
Okay, let's focus, people. Let's get back to it.
Wash on, wash
Is that
off.
Anything else?
everything you needed, Cam, for Councillor Brown?
Sorry?
Is that everything?
Yeah, no, Cam, you're good to go. Thanks for coming.
Get up,
So
Happy
with
dancing.
your Heritage Week stuff?
So
Okay,
All right.
thanks, Cam,
So, yeah. I'm good.
because we also have next week if we need to.
Yep.
We're good.
If you want to crunch numbers with Jeff. and
Yep.
then-
That's
We'll
where
make
we're
it
at.
Are you sure?
I'm on it. We got this.
Okay,
Thank you.
correspondence. You have about 11 letters
They're all the same.
regarding the
RCMP.
RCMP.
All this.
That's
We've
what-
had them for the last
I
2
know.
or 3 months.
Every
It-
meeting.
Yeah,
They're-
so we're good with that.
The town of Ponoka sent out an interesting letter where they're seeking support for business. My question, and I expressed this to Jeff and I'll express it to all of you, is that I have concerns with the notion that they have that the municipality would administer any funds that the feds or the province may provide to business. I'm going to ask Councillor Drew this because he's a businessman. I'm sure you would love to bring all your business affairs to this council and have us, let's have a look over things and see how your business is doing.
My
with-
numbers and stuff.
Yeah, sure, I'm sure you'd love that, right?
Got to
Because of
raise your
our,
taxes up there, too.
we have such a good expertise here about, business numbers and all that stuff, that you'd love that, wouldn't you? Sure. Yeah,
Bring it on.
so I'm suggesting that's a nice idea, but let's just let it go.
Yeah, we don't have to respond.
We don't need to respond. I don't think we need to jump on the wagon. Let's just see how that rolls. Is everyone okay with that? That's my thought. Okay, you saw the things from Tanya Thorne. She's a busy lady and she's also running for mayor.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
Oh.
Running for mayor in Okotoks. So, good. And what? Okotoks, yes. And she gave you all the South Zone updates. She talked a little bit about the victim services. I will say that the province is encroaching on some sacred ground there. We may or may not want to have a letter telling the province, back off and stop grabbing money from areas you shouldn't be grabbing money from. Thoughts from this council? I don't know, Jeff, maybe we want to just sort of, do you want to bring that forward to next week or
Well,
something?
I'm just making a note here. Let me call, why did I just forget her name? From Victim Services.
Yes.
Shannon Paulson.
Shannon,
Shannon, thank you. Let me talk to Shannon and see if she feels it's impacting them locally.
Okay.
And if they'd like you to lobby on their behalf.
Okay.
Let me find out.
yeah. Good approach.
Yeah.
And if any of you want to apply for the police governance board, they've got all of that outlined in there. Looks like you're gonna have to be drawn and quartered in order to get on that committee, but anyway. Okay. Confidential items. Entertain a motion to go into closed session.